your big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar, as the prophecy was once foretold. I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
I forgot. My name's Broadcaster Nickels.
And Broadcaster Nickels. Usually we would be starting this podcast with an intro and with a preview, but that is all over with now. For those of us listening on audio-only formats, from now on, the podcast will just be the review segment. So if you were a fan of our previews in the past, you can still find those on YouTube, on the Crack Cellar channel. Otherwise, let's get into this, Broadcaster. Today we're going to review The Gray Man, and the creators of this clandestine shadow op described as the following.
Clandestine shadow op? Is that what they describe it as?
When the CIA's most skilled operative, whose true identity is known to none, accidentally uncovers dark agency secrets, a psychopathic former colleague puts a bounty on his head, setting off a global manhunt by international assassins. Broadcaster Nickels, does that sound familiar at all?
I mean, how many times has James Bond been redone? This is a real question.
Well,
how many beers have I drank?
Gray Man's an interesting movie. It's based on a book by a man named Mark Greaney, and apparently it's a beloved book. People like it a lot, and directed by the Russo brothers, who you might know as the people who did all of the good MCU movies. Before
Chris Evans.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a tie there. Chris Evans is the big bad guy, and I'll just start right off the bat and say, Chris Evans is a little punk in real life. I really don't like him. Every time he opens his mouth, I'd like to punch it. He did great in this movie. Just being neutral and not kind of separating the art from the man. I think it's one of the best performances he has ever given in his life as an actor.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
It makes you think maybe he has a lot in common with his character in this movie. It wasn't that hard to channel. Because he played the biggest dickhead I have seen in a long time in cinema, Broadcaster. Can you even think of contemporary villains that are that level of dickhead off the top of your head? It's tough.
Yeah, no, not really.
He does.
Special way with it.
He
was the same way in Scott Pilgrim.
Yes, actually. Oh, God, I forgot about him in Scott Pilgrim. That was when he was he wasn't a man. He was still kind of a boy.
That was my favorite fucking... It's like, I'll challenge you to skate this rail. Okay. You first.
Yeah. Great cast in this movie. I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Gosling, but he's fucking awesome in this. Chris Evans, we just said, is awesome. Ana de Armas, who is the female sidekick of Ryan Gosling in this, she is an absolute smoke show, an amazing actress. And by the way, gentlemen, she is playing Marilyn Monroe in the upcoming NC-17 biopic about Marilyn Monroe. Just throwing that out there. Billy Bob Thornton, short-lived but amazing performance in this. Is very subdued performance. Usually Billy Bob Thornton plays the dickheads in most of the movies he's in. Not this time around. He actually played sort of like the caring, elderly statesman who, he gave off this really like an aura of compassion and sort of like, it's not Billy Bob like at all. was very interesting.
Passionate status, dude. Okay, get with it.
Yeah.
Don't have compassion for those fucks. He ratted on the gray man, dude. He's lucky.
He ratted on the gray man. Well, he did.
Man have sympathy for his kid.
He did, but it was great. That whole scene, that whole sequence was so amazing because, like, he did rat on him and he did order him to be killed. But afterwards, when you really kind of break it down and think about it, he knew that the gray man was going to win. So that's kind of why he did it. Like, the way that he called him and he answered the phone, he's like, "Oh, you're okay, good." Like, the way he said that was almost like he expected it. Like, he knew, and that's why he did it. And he's like, yeah, they're going to murder my granddaughter, or whatever she was to him, and which we later find out Ryan Gosling was really close to, too, and that sort of ends up being the whole movie, is about that girl in the end. I love the way that was constructed. I think that was kind of the crux of what made the movie good, a little bit.
That was an interesting design choice, like, because when they first went back and they explained him being a bodyguard for the little girl, I was like, why didn't they just explain this earlier? Or, like, it just seemed like an odd cut at first, but it makes sense because I think people would have lost interest in the movie faster if they started with it. It would have been extra slow, so.
Yeah.
I also do like in the beginning of the movie, you get the only two versions of Ryan Gosling you've ever gotten in movies in one movie. At the very beginning, when he's in jail, he's like the cocky, talkative dude, right? And then like it's fast forward 10 years later, and then he's the quiet, mute dude again, autistic as fuck. You're just like, all right, that was quick, but at least we saw like the transition in one movie. Wow,
Totally.
He's growing.
Yeah.
And I'm not dogging on. I honestly am a fan of Ryan Gosling. Beyond the Pines was a fucking phenomenal movie. Driver was a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, it was a good one. I like that one.
Trying to think of other movies. There's one with Russell Crowe.
I love The Notebook. That's a great movie.
That was him, The Notebook? I thought that was George Clooney or something.
George Clooney? Fuck.
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I'm not pretending I know what the movie is.
Shit.
But what was you ever seen that one with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling? It's like a porno murder thriller.
Oh yeah. What the fuck was that called?
They're both
again?
Russell Crowe's like the rugged badass PI, and fucking Ryan Gosling's like a loser up and coming PI just trying to make money.
I totally saw that, but I don't remember what it was called. But I totally remember that movie. I definitely saw it. Remember, like
there was another dude. There's so many movies I can't remember he did, but they were all like, what was the one where he was like in Bangkok or Singapore, and he was like a criminal in hiding, and his mom was there, and his brother like beat up a hooker, and like the gangster like that owned the hooker was about to execute his brother, so. Ryan Gosling like killed him, and then like the head gangster is like on a headhunt for Ryan Gosling, and there's like some shitty like Bangkok karaoke in it. Like it's a weird movie. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, what year was that from? Like that's gotta be
2010-ish, I think. 2012 maybe.
Man,
might have been.
I can't think of that
this
movie.
was like there was a span like Ryan Gosling's when he got hit the scene, he did a bunch of really good movies, and then he kind of like did a hiatus and then came back.
You know what his first role was, right? You might not know because you're just a little too young. It was on one of my favorite TV shows from my childhood. Does that give you a hint?
Favorite TV shows of your childhood?
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
What?
The Nickelodeon kids horror television show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was his first role.
What episode?
It was the one about the radio station. I forget I don't know what the name of it, but it was...
Damn.
It was about a radio station.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I know if I went to go see it to this now, it'd probably look like shit, but The Ghastly Grinner... episode. I think that's what it was called. Of the Are You Afraid of the Dark? That shit gave me nightmares as a kid.
Dude.
I was terrified. I was literally terrified of that episode. I like refused to watch. I was like, nah, dude. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I was already watching like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th when I was watching Are You Afraid of the Dark. So like when I watched it, it was almost like a break. It was like a fucking respite from what I really watched. And like it was like what I was supposed to be watching. You know what I mean? Like it's like at the age I was, I shouldn't have been watching those real horror movies, and I should have been watching Are You Afraid of the Dark. It gave it a weird dynamic for me. Like I really liked it as a kid, but it didn't really scare me per se. It interested me. And I kind of almost watched it as sort of like almost like a reviewer, you know what I mean? Like I kind of watched each episode and I was kind of like, that was kind of dumb, you know, it wouldn't really happen in this situation. That one was cool, you know, like I didn't really watch it in like the, oh, it's so scary kind of way, just because, like I said, I was already desensitized and a little bit older. I was like 10, 11, 12 when I was watching that. You were like fucking 5, so I could see why it scared you a little bit more. Makes sense.
Dude. Yeah, I think I was a little bit older. I think I was like 7 or 8. But
that was at the very end of Are You Afraid of the Dark then, I think, because it went off the air around when you were 8, I think.
I don't think I was watching like the airing of Ghastly Criminal.
Okay, yeah. That's true. It probably was syndicated for a long-ass time. Well, you know, I have no idea what that Bangkok movie you're talking about is, but I'm gonna go ahead.
Bangkok Dangerous, starring Nicolas Cage. Great movie. I suggest everyone watch it.
Yeah.
It's really a good movie. His hairline is ridiculous in it, but I digress. It's a fucking amazing movie.
Yeah. Oh, I just remembered the name of the movie with Russell Crowe, though. It was called The Nice Guys.
Yeah,
that's what it was. I kept wanting to say The Other Guys, but that was the one with Will Ferrell and fucking Johnny Brasco or whatever. Donnie. What the hell's that guy's name? Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark. There we go. Do you really like him in Blade Runner 2, by the way? I think that Ryan Gosling really won me over with Blade Runner 2.
Yeah, it's a shame they killed him off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopeful that he may return. He may return for the third one if they ever do a third one. But yeah, I enjoyed him in 2049. Him and Adele, whatever her name is, hot girl, because they were both in that movie too. She was the hologram.
That girl is a smoke show.
Yeah, she really is.
And
what's her name?
Ana de Armas.
Ana de Armas.
Yeah. She, man, I've seen her in a few things, and every time I see her, I'm just.
Too. That's funny. She's in the new James Bond too.
Oh, is she? I haven't seen that one.
She's the heartthrob in No Time to Die.
Yeah.
You know, in a better world, when we still got sex scenes in James Bond, we would have. I don't even want to. Guys. We need to go to fucking war. Okay? What is going on?
So, all right. So back to the movie at hand. What did you think overall? I think you're a fan, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was. When I watched Gray Man, I honestly got the vibes of like whoever wrote it should be like given a James Bond opportunity, you know? Because I was like, this is a really well done. Like the cinematography is well done. The action scenes were, I mean, mostly realistic. There was a couple, like especially with like the train and stuff like that, or the Amtrak, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what it was, some European rail system dealio, but it just wasn't realistic, you know. Like there's also like the plane sequence where like he got torn in half and he just flew out and like died down and grabbed the dude with the parachute.
Yeah.
I mean, like they were cool, but for the most part, the movie did espionage and, overall just gunplay and firefights really well. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see more of it. I'd also like to see that dude, like I said earlier, do a James Bond, because I really thought just the direction and the storyline premise were really good.
You mean the Russo brothers? You want the Russo brothers to do a James Bond? Is that what you're saying?
Did they actually write it?
Well, it's based on a book, but they directed it and they did the screenplay. So they made it into a movie.
I want the dude that wrote the book to do a James Bond, and then maybe they can adapt that.
Yeah.
Into a James Bond.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't want the Russo brothers to make their own version of it, because that's just asking for trouble.
I never heard of The Gray Man. It's very similar to a TV show I just watched called Terminal List. It has a very similar sort of like military guy and sort of like a dark ops sort of setting, gets betrayed by his own people, then he goes on a revenge kind of thing. It's like kind of similar, definitely not totally similar, but like
expat bloodfest.
Yeah. So that one, which was also based on a book. It seems like there are a lot of books like this out there, and this Gray Man book was actually really highly regarded, I guess, in the community of people that read these types of books. And there was a lot of noise about how this movie wasn't good and how it ruined the book. Now, I never read the book. You never read the book. We both liked the movie.
Well, I could tell there was definitely, because it was a long movie. And for it being as long as it was, it was good. The pacing was excellent. But it did kind of feel like rushed a little bit. Like everything was like, could be explained a little bit more. But it was, how long? It was almost 2 hours, wasn't it?
It was over 2 hours.
It's over 2 hours.
Yeah, it was a little bit over 2 hours. It was pretty long.
I almost could feel the cut content. Because like with Sierra 6 or 4 at the beginning, which was a dope-ass battle, dude, when the fireworks going off and they got tossed down into the firework pit. Dude, that reminded me of like a Mortal Kombat fight.
Hell yeah.
Dude, that was super dope. And the knife work was super clean too. Like it wasn't like this over dramatic knife work where people were getting jabbed and shit like that. It was close quarter defense combat, and the guy pulled out a razor and he stabbed him once in the fucking lung, and he pulled it out, and they both knew it was over. And he just sat down. He's like, "Fuck."
Yeah, there are a lot of good moments in this movie like that.
Yeah. But the reason I brought that up is Sierra 4, like, you could tell, like, he probably had a bigger part in the movie at one point. It just seemed like that build up to that character and his death was pretty fast. And he seemed like somewhat of a significant character. Just to be the person to hand Sierra 6. Am I getting it backwards? Is Ryan Gosling Sierra 6? Or is he Sierra 4?
Yeah, Ryan Gosling is Sierra 6. You're talking about Billy Bob, right?
No. I'm talking about the other Sierra that he kills in the firework pit.
Oh, that was wasn't he like
4?
He was
Sierra
7
4?
or no 4? Yeah, 4. You got it.
So like 4 like gives him the medallion. I feel like that was kind of for how significant of a character he felt like. For him to ultimately just be a prop to like. For him, or to be the prop giving Ryan Gosling the main. What's the term I'm looking for? Like the main prop for the movie, the one with that little SD card in it that has all the files and shit. He's like he's the first lever to be pulled. To like push the storyline forward.
Oh man, it's funny how times have changed. Like if this movie was made in the 90s, it would have been a giant CD-ROM disc handed to him.
It was a floppy disk with a plastic shell case. Maybe a zip disk.
Oh man, if it were like the 70s, it would have been like a VHS cassette tape.
Dude, already the Kung Lao and fucking those Kung Lao laser discs.
Oh hell yeah!
I always dreamed about tossing those. I always tossed DVDs, and they were always dope. And I was like, man, if I had a laser disc, this would kill somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I find really interesting about this movie is that most of the characters are temporary. Like, other than the main character, Six, and Annie DiArmas, his ally, and then obviously Chris Evans as the enemy, the villain. Every other character in this movie is very, like, sort of, they're just in their own spot. Like, they exist within this small pocket of the movie, then it's over with.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't a lot of, like, coming back.
There's a good example of that with the girl. You know, when they first introduced the little girl, like, and she gets pushed into that room, and she just kind of looks like manic or panicked and looking around. And then she just takes a deep breath, and it's over. It's like, that's it. Like, we don't even know what the significance of that girl is yet. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah. It's interesting that this movie. I want to talk. This isn't really specifically about the review, I guess, but it's related to this movie. There is a coordinated media sort of policy right now in terms of action movies. I want to know if you've noticed it or not. It's essentially all action movies now, no matter how good or bad they are just getting panned by the critics.
But fucking being pumped up by the fans.
Right. So, like, The Gray Man has a 46% on Rotten Tomatoes with the critics. It has a 91% with the audience.
Yeah, it was a fucking great movie.
It was a great movie. It was at least good. Like, if
yeah,
not
it's
great.
not. I mean, let's not like it's not fucking Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, okay, dude?
Yeah,
like, I'm trying to, but it's a great movie.
It's good, but it's interesting because this is not the only action flick / TV show this has happened to. This exact same thing is happening with every action movie that comes out, basically. It happened with Rambo Last Blood that came out a few years ago. That movie just got hammered by the critics. Great fucking movie. One of the best Rambos, in my opinion. It was fucking amazing. It happened with The Terminal List, that TV show that I watched that was similar, we talked about earlier. That one also had like a 40 or 50% with the critics and like 100% with the audience. So it's just like...
Those both had white protagonists, right?
Yeah, I think that is what's going on here, man. I think that the media is at war with action movies that have a lead that is a white male.
Yeah. Without some type of handicap, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if it was like if it was Elliot Page, you know, like a woman that's pretending to be a guy, then it would be fucking 100% media, I'm sure. But
yeah, I mean, what do you expect though? It's just the times. I mean, I hope they keep pumping them out because now that I'm seeing all these, like, Prey is kind of a bad sign, but I think action movie. I think we might be seeing the early stages of an '80s action movie renaissance.
I believe that
because I think people, you know, with all this woke stuff and like mainstream culture is even getting sick of it now, and I think we're gonna see a huge rebound of just like, you know, machismo, because like even just plain mustaches are coming back into style, dude. Like the power stash is coming back into style, so it's like you can feel it in the ether.
and you're actually perfectly bringing me to my point about all this. I think that the media knows that the 80s action machismo is coming back right now, and they are on a coordinated campaign to try and stop it or slow it down.
They can't stop it, dude. You can't stop that machete going through that militiaman in fucking Predator, dude. Are you kidding me? It went into his torso, into the wall, dude. Pegged him to the wall. You can't stop that.
Yeah. They're already announcing a sequel to this movie, Gray Man. I don't know how many books
Really?
there are. I'm
Oh,
assuming
damn.
there's lots of books, but I don't know. But
I could easily see this becoming the next John Wick if they get the budget, you know.
yeah, but it's funny because when I saw that announced, it was in a story by a mainstream media outlet that was basically crying about it. They're like, oh, despite the fact everyone is telling them their movie sucks, they're making another one, those dummies. That's basically what the article said, more or less. And I'm just sitting here like, ooh, this is so agenda-based. You can just feel the agenda dripping off of it. Like, it's so personal.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're at war. Two-Spirit Penguin.
Yeah, we certainly are, aren't we? But,
They said war never changes, but it feels like it does. Feels like a whole lot of change.
yeah. One of the problems I guess I have with this movie we kind of brushed on is sort of like the hyper unrealistic stuff. The airplane part was definitely a big part of that. That whole scene where he's falling and like aiming himself and like changing his speed so that he can steal the guy's parachute and all that. It was cool as fuck, but it's like, is this a sci-fi movie? Is this a fantasy movie? Like, what is it? Because like
It didn't. The scene didn't really make sense because at first he like came in. I swore he landed on his parachute, his main parachute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes I was like, all right, well that parachute's done unless it untangled itself somehow miraculously. And then he fought, and then they deployed another parachute, which kind of looked like a main chute again. But I was like, that had to be the safety chute. And then it cut away. It never really showed him land.
Yeah.
Kind of was a weird scene.
It was a weird scene. There's another scene that was kind of like that too, but I can't think of what it was. But let's just say there were a few scenes like that in the movie where it's like, yeah, it's cool, but at a certain point, there's like this line where, with an action movie, where if you cross it, you're kind of becoming like something different.
Well, no offense, but I kind of think like Ryan Gosling kind of is like not as much of a crazy son of a bitch as like people like Tom Cruise and shit. So when it comes to like action movies and you see like the scenes where they're jumping off planes and stuff, that's all CGI with Ryan Gosling, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's all fake. Well, people like Tom Cruise, like crazy son of a bitch, he like wants to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think Ryan Gosling's like that. He might be, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I just remember the other scene I was thinking about too. You remember when he goes to that guy's house to get like the new identity, and the guy is like, "Oh, move right over here," and then he pulls a lever and he falls into a trap. That was really cartoony and like not realistic at all. Like he was in an apartment and somehow he was able to dig like 30 feet underneath his apartment.
He had a water.
And then, that's the real thing that bothered me. Why the fuck did you go through all this trouble to build this trap pit, and then you add a fucking easy escape mechanism with that exposed water pipe? Makes no fucking sense. It's like, oh my god. It was
easy. What he did was like MacGyver fucking levels, so I don't know if you call it easy.
If you're trapped in a bottomless pit and there's only one thing you can see in there other than you in the pit, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to think about humans float. If this pit fills with water, I'll float to the top. Like, I mean, come on, dude. I don't know. It felt really like cartoony, like cartoon villain style shit to me.
Yeah. Oh, it was. I mean,
yeah, but I did like it comes with Chris Evans showing up right as he's escaping. I did enjoy the way he did that escape where he like set the bomb off right when they got there, and that whole thing was fucking awesome. I loved all the really the action sequences that were just like hand to hand, weapon based, not with airplanes, not with weird stuff, but like that was really cool. The scene where he's handcuffed to the bench or whatever, and he's like flipping back. That was sick as fuck. Like there's so many cool ass parts that kind of outweigh the cheesy ones to where it doesn't bother me that much. But if I'm gonna nitpick, that would be my big nitpick of this movie. Well, that and no Annie Diarmas scene of Leisure. That could have been good too.
Leisure. That should be a new segment. Scene of Leisure.
So what do you think about the flashbacks? We talked about them a little bit earlier. Do you think that they were necessary? Do you think they were well done? Could they have been done better? Could they have just been left out? Did the movie really need those?
I think they could have blended it in a way where it didn't have to be a flashback. You know, like they made it seem like it was necessary to like go that far back in time, whereas like it wasn't that big of a chunk of time where they could just, you know, started with that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that whole flashback scene could have been the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the whole point of it was just for us to believe that he would go through the trouble of saving this girl in the end. Like the whole ending.
Yeah.
Like they had to like make us believe that he would do that.
I think that's only a byproduct of them cutting it in halfway through.
You might be right about that. I'm not sure. Would that be your big nitpick of the movie? What's your big negative of this movie if you had to name one thing you didn't like about it?
Yeah, I think it would have to be just the abrupt time cut, like I just stated. But I mean, I'm trying to think of something else that really is on par with that as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also just in general, Billy Bob's scenes seemed really shallow. He didn't really seem like a convincing, like, father archetype of a CIA, like of
Are you
CIA
sure?
assets, you know?
Are
He
you
didn't seem
sure?
like the head of the Sierra program, like they are all touting him to be?
Are you sure that's not your bias from knowing him as like Sling Blade and shit like that?
Well, no, I just think he's not really in it, you know? He's kind of in his Bruce Willis years.
Well, I mean, dude,
No
I
offense.
wish that these were the type of movies Bruce Willis was doing at the end. That would have been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, for sure, the more subdued roles, but I mean, that's just me expecting more from him because I know what he's done, but he is that age, you know, so he's playing more of like a side role than a main role.
Yeah.
But I don't know, he just didn't seem like a convincing head of the secret program at the CIA type of guy. He seemed more of like an aloof fucking guy being blackmailed as the CIA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I don't know. I kind of see where you're coming from, but I thought he was pretty good personally. But I get what you're saying. What do you think about the overall sort of relationship between Six and I always forget her name. What, Miranda? Whatever his girlfriend, his girl sidekick. Did you enjoy their like sort of banter, their back and forth banter as much as I did?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That was one of my favorite parts of this movie. Like when the lone wolf shows up at the hospital to take the drive, and she asks for a gun, and he tosses up a gun with no clip, and like she's like, who the hell gives an unloaded gun? And he's just like, nobody throws a loaded gun like that. And like them going back, that was really fucking funny. I loved that part. Like, and there's a bunch of little parts like that where they kind of just went back and forth at each other. I thought they had really good chemistry. I'm guessing that Ryan Gosling was, you know, involved in extracurricular activities because their chemistry felt a little too real.
Well, they were lovers in 2049, so.
Oh, I wonder. Okay, so this isn't even their first rodeo. That's a good point. So this is This is a history of extracurricular activities.
You know they, dude. Dude.
Ryan Gosling is like, ask me about Marilyn Monroe, please.
Yeah, dude. I'd be so ashamed if I was homies with Ryan and he told me he didn't hit that. Like, be like,
what is the point then, dude?
Yeah, I was like, what's the point of what you do exactly? Like, sure, the millions, yeah, fuck all that, but like, what about Anna de Armas?
Yeah. So the final segment takes place at the X-Men mansion, right? Am I wrong about that? That old-timey house, isn't that the same one from the original X-Men movies? I could be making that up. I swear, like when I saw it, I was like, that is the same fucking X-Men house. I think it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
What'd you think about that whole sequence overall and basically the ending of the movie?
I mean, I think the ending was ultimately the weakest part of the movie. You know, it didn't really have like a huge, like, reveal. You know, like the Sierra program. Like they didn't flesh out any of the Sierra program, or like there was no big reveal about Billy Bob's character, like towards the end, or it kind of just felt like, yeah, we killed the bad guys, the end type of thing, which was pretty shallow compared to the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't know. Maybe that was one of the complaints that the book readers have. You know, where maybe like the first book actually like leads into the second one, where the movie doesn't seem like it's leading into anything, in my opinion.
I honestly was really confused about the ending, like the very end. So basically, after the Chris Evans, the final fight with Chris Evans, Six is mortally wounded, and the handler, whatever you want to call her, like she was like the handler, the kind of running things, even though she was getting stepped on by Chris Evans. You know what I'm talking about. She finds him, and he's basically dead. Like, if she wanted, she could have finished him or left him to die, but she makes a deal with him, right? Like, you're good at this shit, I want you to be my new dude, and I'm gonna save your life. And he's like, okay, but you have to, protect the girl. Like, that's the deal, is you keep the girl under lock and key, protected, and I'll do your shit, and we'll make this deal, and we won't tell any of our secrets. And then, as soon as he gets better, he immediately breaks the deal, breaks out of the facility he's in, and goes to meet up with the girl. And, he does like the little callback, like, am I allowed to chew gum in here? Which, is cute, whatever. But then the movie ends, and that made me scratch my head a little bit, because it's like, why did you even make the deal then? Like, what?
So he could live.
So you think it was just purely like, I need to get to a hospital bed, so I'm going to pretend to go along with this?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, but I thought about that too, and that could be it. But the thing that I can't quite reconcile is supposedly his primary objective is to defend this girl. Like, early in the movie, she's neither here nor there, but once she enters the picture almost becomes Taken. Like, I have a certain set of skills, and you're not going to fuck my daughter. You know what I mean? Like, that's sort of what this movie becomes. And if he truly, that was his main goal, you would think he would want to do the deal, because he can't always be protecting her. But if he has the full might of the, like, shadow military of the United States on guard, that's a much better level of protection that doesn't depend on one man constantly. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like that would be better if his goal was to protect her. Do you not think so?
No, I agree. I totally agree. I think it's just a weird flaw with, like, the pacing of the movie.
Maybe. Yeah, it feels like there should be something that happened in between that changed his mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's weird. Like, there's something about it. And maybe this goes back to those complaints from the book readers. that, you know, like, you ruined the book. Maybe that's one of the things they're talking about. Maybe it makes more sense in the book. Hell, maybe it doesn't even happen in the book. Maybe it happens totally differently. I don't know.
I think they kind of wrote the movie like that because they expected it just to be a one-off. You know?
Maybe.
They're just trying to make it a rounded story.
I wonder, though, because they have Netflix has like a standing deal with the Russo brothers, so they probably had a feeling they were going to be greenlighting a sequel before this even got finished or made, which to me means they probably have Ryan Gosling on a contract. Like, you got it. If we say so, you got to do like 4 more movies or whatever. But for them to not know and think it's one and done at the same time, like, it doesn't really jive together. So I don't know. Either way, that's one of my big gripes with the movie. It confused me a bit. Honestly, I really, really loved this movie till the very end. Like, that ending is kind of what soured it for me a little bit. And that whole rooftop scene, but like rewinding a little bit before the Chris Evans fight scene, when they're still kind of going on the escape route and they're up on the roof, and that's where Billy Bob, God rest his soul. That was a sweet way to go, though, wasn't it? I love those.
Gets killed like I get killed in Hunt Showdown, dude.
Yeah.
90-meter bullet through concrete somehow hits you in the chest. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I love the use of kamikaze in this movie, though. We have his like one of his like CIA assets or whatever earlier in the movie, the black chick who basically blows up her apartment when those people show up. That was a really cool kamikaze. And then we have fucking our boy Sling Blade. I loved him. He just had the grenade, and you know, Chris Evans just starts talking shit, and Billy Bob just shows him the grenade without the pin and says, "Boring." It just blows. That was a great callback, great writing, great scene all together. And again, Chris Evans, great job in this movie. His reaction where he's like, fuck, and he just jumps off the roof. And he like protects himself with one of his lackeys. Like he pulls one of his lackeys, uses him as a shield, and then the blast throws him off the roof into the... That was fucking awesome. But yeah, this is a fucking solid, rock solid action movie. Like, it doesn't get much more solid than this, and it's interesting because I was going into it with low expectations because of all the negative media that I was seeing about it before it even came out. Nice surprise. I was not expecting like such a high tier action movie. I was really kind of expecting something more like The Man from Toronto. You know, like sort of like a tongue-in-cheek, slapsticky comedy action movie. Not at all.
You know, the other thing to consider here is that it's a Netflix movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This might be the comeback for Netflix.
I mean, honestly, it's hilarious, like, with all the media hand-wringing about how bad this movie is. This might be one of the best Netflix movies of all time.
Definitely recently, no doubt.
Like, what in your mind is the best Netflix movie of all time? Because there really aren't too many really good ones.
Netflix movies?
Yeah, Netflix original movie. Like something that came out on Netflix. It was made for Netflix by Netflix. There's not too many good ones.
There's some series, though, that could definitely compete.
Yeah, for sure. But movie-wise, most of the Netflix movies are mediocre. Like, this is one of the better ones, for sure. It might be
it might be up best. There. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So, I guess we can talk about that final fight real quick. What did you think about the final duel with Gosling and Evans?
I mean,
a little cartoony, a little.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of expected for Chris Evans' character, though.
Right.
I don't know. It was one. I mean, I don't have really much to say about it. It was pretty generic, in my opinion. I don't think it was anything that kind of.
Well, I mean, there's a few things about it that you could nitpick. The fact that our girl Annie de Armas had the shot, could have killed him. He says no, because he has to beat Chris Evans' ass fist to fist. Now, on the surface, that seems like a very dumb decision by an elite CIA operator, right? You don't think that would happen. But, again, we're going back to machismo. And also, I think that they were channeling a little bit of, like, the anti-Chris Evans rage that has been bubbling recently, with that guy kind of becoming more and more of a douchebag, like not as characters per se, but in real life. I think a lot of people that like these type of movies aren't really big on Chris Evans right now for a number of reasons. And he was playing one of the most unlikable, shitty dickhead villains in this movie on top of it. I almost feel like they kind of fed into that energy, and they're like, okay, Ryan Gosling is going to be the stand-in for every man that wants to punch the shit out of Chris Evans.
Yeah, I could definitely see them sitting down with Chris and being like, let's lean into this.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And then I loved how it became a knife. Like, it was such a great transition, like, because it's like, oh, we're going to be hand-to-hand, let's do this mano-a-mano. Then, of course, fucking Ryan Gosling's kicking his ass, and he pulls out a knife, and he's like, he starts smiling, like, ha, 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 you know, I'm a knife guy. And it was perfect for his character, you know, like a sort of, like, cheesy, cheating, little, like, shit-grinning motherfucker type move. Perfect. But I have to really give them props, or I don't know if Chris Evans did this himself or if there was a stand-in or what. His moves with that knife were fucking amazing. Like, that was some sick knife fight choreography. Some of the best I've ever seen.
Who, Chris?
The whole sequence when the fight becomes a knife fight, when he gets the knife out and he starts fucking stabbing the fuck out of Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
That was some of the best knife fight choreography I've ever seen. Those moves were sick. I don't know. Chris Evans probably didn't even do them. It was probably like a stunt double stand-in CG thing. I don't know. But I just have to say, that was surprising. When I was watching that, I was just like, God damn, dude. Like, that was some good shit.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too impressed. I mean, I could do better, but... No, it was pretty dope.
I do that every day before breakfast.
After I throw about 8 kunai in the oak in my backyard. Finish up my Bowflex lessons.
Yeah. So you excited for the sequel?
Honestly, I did not realize they were coming out with the sequel. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Hopefully it doesn't get diluted down into nothing, because this movie was cool as a one-off. I get the feeling that now that number 2 got greenlit so quick that they're just this is the milking game. This is the milking machine. The apparatus has been equipped to the udder, and the milking is about to begin. It'd be interesting to see. Do they actually say Ryan Gosling is going to be in it? Is that confirmed?
I don't think so. I don't even think the sequel's actually confirmed. It's just sort of been like unofficially confirmed. Like, one of the Netflix brass kind of made a comment like, we were excited to see
I bet
the Russo brothers expand the universe of Gray Man. It was like really generic shit like that, but essentially what he was saying is that there's going to be another movie.
Yeah, well, we'll see, because those guys are they've been down on their luck so much, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, that one successful run to them, they're like, of course we're making a sequel. Of course.
Yeah. One kind of weird fact about the movie, I guess. I'll kind of end this before we get to our rating. James Gandolfini's son that was in The Many Saints of Newark, who played young Tony Soprano?
Yeah.
He was supposed to be in this movie, The Gray Man.
Really?
And he, got mysteriously cut out of it. he was going to be, like all the sequences that happened in the middle of the movie in Europe, like the Europe shots, like when we're talking about with like the bench where he was handcuffed to the bench, that type of stuff. Michael Gandolfini was going to be in that part of the movie originally. He was going to be some character, I don't know what or when or who or whatever, but he just got mysteriously cut, and there's just no word about it. He never made a comment about it. No one made a comment about it.
I wonder if he was going to be the leader of the mask gang in the vans that were shooting up the whole area.
Yeah, I don't know.
When all the mercenaries come after him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I found that interesting. But maybe he'll be in the sequel. Maybe they're saving him for the sequel. I really wasn't that.
I highly doubt it.
I wasn't that impressed with him in The Many Saints of Newark, but he's okay. But I mean, that movie wasn't even about Tony Soprano. That movie was kind of a fucking honey dick. Like it was. Yeah, it was not about Tony Soprano at all. But yeah. Anyway, broadcaster, as you know, here in the Crack Cellar, we have a official, patented Ghostbusters rating system. On that system, what do you rate the Gray Man?
I'm gonna give it the Stay Puft. Yeah. Yes, Stay Puft's A, right?
Yep. I love it when we ask about the ranks in the middle of it. Really adds levity to the pod.
Listen, I'm not consulting the chart every time, all right?
Yeah. I'll give it a Stay Puft too. It is just a really rock solid action movie. Not the best.
I'm gonna give it a fiery but peaceful Stay Puft.
I'm just gonna give it a vanilla, just a regular, standard Stay Puft. I think it's just like if the A rank was a dartboard, it would just be right in the middle of the board. Like it's just it's as solid as you can get. It doesn't go really far into like game-changing territory. It doesn't do anything crazy. It just is what it is, and it does what it does very well for the most part. But yeah, I'm with you. I hope this is sort of like another wave in the coming tsunami of the resurgence of 80s action.
I hope so. I feel like they've like thrown all the darts on the board and everything sucks, and they're like, let's just start doing action movies again and start fucking pissing people off.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And on that note, we'll close out.